This is the Launching Creative Podcast, the place where creatives learn to be business-savvy creative professionals. We call ourselves the Anti-Starving Artists. We interview successful creative professionals so that you can be creative and make money. Welcome to episode number 4. I'm your host, Nick Parks. Hey everyone, welcome to the show. We have a special guest for this episode hailing from Sydney, Australia. He's the founder of Mighty Little Startups, which was created for do-it-yourself inspired online entrepreneurs. He's also a talented search engine marketer. Allow me to introduce Mark Patchett. How are you, Mark?
I'm good. How are you guys?
We're terrific. Thanks for asking. I wanted to bring you on the show because you help online entrepreneurs, and as creative professionals, we spend a lot of time online for our business. Explain to our listeners what Mighty Little Startups is.
Yeah, sure. So I started Mighty Little Startups a couple of years back, and it all sort of stemmed when I was creating a few of my own companies, and I researched the heck out of everything. And I got this idea that, I may as well kind of document the system and document what I was learning so that I could share it with other people. And because I knew that some things took me, 5 hours to research, but then once I had the answer, it would take only 10 minutes to execute. So I thought it would be, really insightful and helpful information for other people. So then I had the idea of Mighty Little Startups. And the real core is that you don't have to have, $10,000, $20,000 to build an awesome website, or you don't need to hire professional marketers or get a marketing degree just to promote what you're doing. If you've got the right resources and the right tools, you can do it yourself and create something really awesome and really go from mini to mighty. So that's the gist of Mighty Little Startups.
Mark, it sounds like you've implemented the lean startup model for Mighty Little Startups.
Yeah, 100%.
One thing I love about Mighty Little Startups is that you're in the business of helping people. This is very counterintuitive because sometimes we feel like if we reveal our big strategies, our competitors will steal them from us and will ultimately put us out of business. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting point. And I think one of my favorite examples, I was at a Google conference and I heard one of the founders of Cardinal Path presenting, and he talked about this exact topic. And they wanted to start bringing in some more clients, and he had this zany idea that they'd hold a seminar and reveal pretty much all of their secrets. We're talking about the exact process they use to run and manage people's campaigns. And, the other guys at the companies are like, hey, man, you're crazy. You're going to give away all that information. And they went with it, and they charged for these seminars. And what happened in the end is that people would rock up from, we're talking Fortune 500 companies or even just large, medium companies. And they'd go through the seminar and they'd come up to him after and they're like, mate, I had no idea how much work was involved. I don't want to do that. Can you do it? So it resulted in them getting this huge explosive growth of sales from pretty much revealing their entire process.
Yeah, the idea is important, but it's actually the execution of the idea that will set you apart. That's what we've been learning at Launching Creative.
Yeah, could not agree more, man. Could not agree more.
Yeah, a lot of creatives, they tend to hold their cards pretty close. They're just afraid of someone stealing their ideas, I guess. And I really could be afraid of someone stealing our ideas at Launching Creative, but we've just been honest and open, and the feedback that we've received has been terrific.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all through the Lean Startup as well, Eric Ries, which is such a good book. And he talks about people having the fear of, which I guess is a little bit different, but revealing their ideas. And they're like, man, people are going to do it. But you're right, it's about the execution. And the people that are least likely to take it are the big companies that people most fear. Because from working with them, like we're working with, I probably can't mention who they are, but a huge computer, massive. And we wanted to run some campaigns for them. And it took us over a month to get the tracking code put on their website. I'm like, man, you guys will not be able to execute any idea I've got, let alone, put a little bit of code.
So what was the holdup? Did every idea have to go through several different departments before you could get the go-ahead?
Yeah, exactly. Like the amount of, I had to go through legal, then I had to go through, 4 different departments, just a little tracking code. And yeah, so it's amazing. They don't have time to execute on these new ideas.
You know what I love about the startup world and also the freelance world? You can just get your idea out there. You can be lean. If you make mistakes, it's not the end of the world. Now you know one more thing that doesn't work, which brings you one step closer to what does work.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's so much fun. And I think the funnest people to work with are small and medium companies. There's one client who's my absolute favorite, and any idea I've got, I'll just send her an email. I'm like, look, you could try this. It's going to make you tons of cash. She just writes back, yes, that's it, done. Love that. And it's so fast. And the result is, it's so much fun. So she started in the beginning, I think she was making like $6,000 a month or something like that, which is still pretty decent. And then over Christmas, she turned over like a couple $100K.
Wow, just over Christmas.
Yeah, just so like within 3 or 4 months later, and I was like, maybe it's the Christmas rush, but it's still continued through January, and it's just because she's agile, and anything I want to try, she's like, yeah, let's do it.
Mark, I've actually had some experience with some larger companies and organizations, and for the longest time, I had this nagging feeling that I was going to get into trouble for taking too long, and then finally, I just realized, you know what? That's just the rate at which they move. They just move slowly.
Yeah, it's so true.
So where was this Google conference?
It was just in Sydney. So it's called the Google's Partner Program, and it's really just a sales pitch to push the Google products, but they have to make it valuable enough to make us want to turn up. And they hold it annually or so, and the idea is really just to make sure we know all the awesome features that Google AdWords has, and they go through Google Analytics. So it's just keeping us up to date with the latest happenings. So it's really good, though. And they're clever. So instead of having it hosted by Google, they get it hosted by a top dog that partners with Google, which was this guy from Cardinal Path. So it's not like they're tooting their own horn. So it's pretty clever. Right?
Oh, I like that. That sounds like that would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's really, really good. And it's just fun meeting other people in the industry and seeing what everybody's up to. And yet again, there are so many clients out there that it's not a matter of, if I reveal my secret, I'm going to lose. It's just you're better off sharing and helping each other out.
Yeah, when we share our secrets and our strategies with people, we're actually setting ourselves up to be an authority within our niche. So Mark, how did you get this idea of building a business upon helping people and sharing secrets with them?
So I guess it was just learning. Anything I learnt, I love sharing it, and one way I remember things is to pretty much document when I learn, and then test, and then come back, and then if something I did worked or didn't work, then I just share it. And the more you do it, the more you find people coming to you and asking for questions, and then the more you do it yourself, the more you realize you can help people out, and it just grows and grows and grows until the point where I guess you can become somewhat well regarded within your niche.
We love transparency here at Launching Creative. John Lee Dumas, who is our guest on episode 1, and Pat Flynn, among other online entrepreneurs, do this really cool thing where they share their monthly income reports. Talk about transparency. They show their profits, they show their expenses, and honestly, they're open about their failures as well.
Yeah, one of the biggest standouts when you know someone's, I guess, legit or not is sharing the failures. It gives that kind of level of honesty and transparency.
You have to be intentional to be honest like that. With social media, we tend to create this image, this flawless version of ourselves. But you know what really stands out? It's when we're genuine and we share those shortcomings.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's been, I do a ton of online courses. Like I guess I'm addicted. Any potential new idea, like I've got to get in on it. And one course I did that was really, really cool. It's called Tiny Little Businesses, which is actually the inspiration for My Little Startups, or the name. And what they do is it's kind of an affiliate marketing sort of thing, but they create a company through the course. And they're like, when they start out, they go, we don't know if this is going to work, but this is a real life situation. So let's follow along. And it didn't work in the end. But then they went through why it didn't work and how you can make it work for yourself. So it's really, really good.
Mark, you said you've taken online courses. Have you taught any? Or does Mighty Little Startups offer any?
Yeah, so I've got something in the back end of My Little Startups, which will be released pretty soon, actually, which is a Start Your Own Startup course, which I think there's a lead form at the moment. And that is literally the step-by-step system I use to create any of the businesses I run and all the stuff that makes it super simple. And I've done a pre-release with a few people just to test it out, and they're getting some awesome results. So it's really, really cool to see that in action.
Wow, that's exciting. Since this is an online course, are you reaching people internationally or is it more local?
Yeah, it's an international group. So I've got a few people in Sydney, then I've got someone in South Africa, and a few people in the States, and a few people in the UK. Really, really quite spread, which just shows it doesn't matter where you're at. If you've got a system that works, it's going to work for you.
You currently have a coming soon landing page on your site about this, right?
That is the one.
Okay.
Coming soon.
Very exciting.
Yeah, so that should be good. And I've released another sort of website as well, which I've only just started building, which is Startup Bites. And the Mighty Little Startups course is going to be, a start to finish course, while Startup Bites is going to be, I call it action-packed chunks of information. And the idea is more specific things. So if you want to learn about social media, if you want to learn about AdWords, so you don't need to buy a whole course. It's just small, fast bits of information. So that'll be cool as well.
So Mark, just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, you can pick and choose tiny little nuggets that are relevant to your current situation.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not about, some big, 200-page book, because that's what you don't need. People don't have time to read 200 pages when they just, when it can be said in 10.
Right. So it sounds like we're on the same page and that you are trying to build multiple streams of income.
Yeah, exactly that. And yeah, it'd be, it's great to make some money from this, but this isn't kind of where I want to make, or it's not really where my sole source of income. It's more about sharing and just engaging and networking with other like-minded people.
Well, that sounds great to me. It seems to me like you're a very generous person, and I love that.
It's interesting. It does, like with Cardinal Path, it comes back though. The more you share, the more, it seems you reap the rewards as well.
I agree with that. I think things definitely come in full circle. I mean, if you're helping people, eventually down the road, you're going to receive help, and you never know when you'll need it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good point.
I love the startup model because you can keep your overhead so low. It's astounding. The sky really is the limit.
It's thrilling, isn't it? And that's one of the core things about the course is that you can start up and create these amazing websites with WordPress. For like $30 or $40, you can get your domain name.
Right.
You can get hosting. You can get an awesome theme, all the extensions, plugins. It's never been that accessible at that level of quality.
Some of these big online entrepreneurs are making 5, even 6 figures per month, and they're working from home. I mean, compare that to real estate investing, which is something I plan to get into, FYI. But you need a lot of cash to get started. But the online world, all you need is an internet connection and a computer. Just find a niche that you're passionate about and dive in.
No, definitely. You've really got to enjoy what you're talking about. And over the years, the affiliate marketing I've done, I've done everything from kind of dating and gaming. And, even when it does make money, you've got to spend time writing this copy. And if you don't enjoy writing it, you're going to get over it. So I think, yeah, I definitely agree that you've got to do something you love and talk about what you love.
Just in case any of the anti-starving artists out there aren't familiar with affiliate marketing, could you explain what that is?
Good question. So affiliate marketing is essentially promoting other people's products, and then if you make a sale, you get a cut. And the brilliant thing is, if you've created an information product, say you've written a course about online marketing, it doesn't cost you anything to sell it. It's intangible. So if you get affiliates coming on board, they're promoting your product for you. And even if you're getting half the amount of money, you never would have got that money anyway if they weren't promoting it. So affiliate marketing and avoiding being spammy, I think one of the biggest changes is, recently, have you ever looked at any of the teachings from Jonathan Meisel?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, he's awesome. So he's the guy that invented the landing page, and he operates out of Maui. And he's got this really, really cool course called Traffic Evolution, and it goes through pretty much every different type of traffic you could ever imagine. Really, really awesome stuff. I learned a lot from him. And one of his biggest things is not direct linking. So direct linking is when you're promoting an affiliate offer, you create some ads on Facebook, and then you send someone directly to the affiliate page. It doesn't really add a lot of value. So what he does instead is he creates a landing page, and the idea is to squeeze and to get someone's email. And then even if they don't buy, you can create an ongoing dialogue. And that means you've captured some value. So it's really, really good. And it's also not quite as spammy. So you're not just trying to send thousands of people different offers without adding any value. So I think that's one important strategy to keep in mind.
Yeah, affiliate marketing is great. It's a great way to have a source of income, and it's not a product that you have to build yourself, so there's no capital required on your end. It's a really great strategy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And there are some people that their sole traffic comes from affiliates. They won't actually do any promotion themselves. They just rely on the affiliates. And the beauty is that with the example with Jonathan Meisel, there are people that have got email lists of, tens to hundreds of thousands of people, all segmented by niche. So if you get one of these people on board, they're literally going to at the flick of a switch, or I guess the press of a button, they're promoting your offer to hundreds of thousands of people. So powerful.
The important thing about affiliate marketing is you don't ever want to spam people. We will be monetizing through affiliate marketing in the near future at Launching Creative. And I can tell you this right now. If we promote a product, we believe in it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really, really good point. And once you've built your own list, one of the most important things, what was I reading? It's a really interesting article. And the integrity of your list is everything. And if you ever promote offers that you haven't tested, you lose people's faith, your list is worth nothing because people aren't going to trust you. So only ever promoting things that you really, really believe in. And you're right, and it works. Like there are some people that will email me and I'll buy anything they offer just because I know it will be so awesome.
At Launching Creative, we reach out to creative professionals, not necessarily online marketers. But I think we're covering some good stuff. However, we might be throwing out some terms that may be unfamiliar to the anti-starving artist. Can you explain what an email list is?
So in regards, I guess a good way to talk about it would be a strategy to do it. So essentially building your list is just capturing people's emails. Simple as that. But it's more how you do that. And one of the most effective strategies is using something called a lead magnet, which it's something you give away for free in exchange for someone putting their email. So if you've got a blog and you've just got a newsletter sign up, it's like, hey, join my list. Yeah, you'll definitely get people. But if you've got a free offer, so it's like, hey, we'd love to give you our free 10-step guides for creative professionals looking to go online. That's something you're going to get a ton of people signing up. So using a lead magnet like that is a brilliant and really, really effective way. And then one of the next steps is to chuck them on like an autoresponder. So if you use an email client like MailChimp or Aweber or GetResponse, you can set up an automatic sequence of emails. So once someone signs up to your list, you automatically send them an email immediately. Then you can send one 3 days later and 3 days after that. So you can start engaging them in a dialogue without having to manually send an email. So that's a really essential system. And MailChimp, you can get free accounts as well. Everyone loves free.
Yeah, I've worked with MailChimp, and I mean, it is free, and it's beautiful. It's just easy to work with. And I mean, people say that email is dead, but that's just not true.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think email is so far from dead. It's even more alive than ever, because if you think about promoting to, say, the people that have liked your fan page on Facebook, if they're not on Facebook at the right time, they're not going to see your post. Or if Facebook uses EdgeRank to determine whether they're even going to display your post to who. So you've got no control. And then Twitter's even harder because, there's a million tweets a second. It's so easy for your content to get lost. But email sits there, and it sits there until you engage with it, until you either delete it or you open it. And unlike a Facebook ad where you're paying per click, or AdWords where you're paying per click, once someone's on your email list, it doesn't cost you anything to re-engage with them. It's really, really powerful. And instead of getting, a tiny ad like 300 by 250 pixels or something like that, you get you can do whatever you want. And you get so much space to work with. There's no restrictions, there's no limits, it's awesome.
Yeah, there are no limits. I mean, when you're emailing someone, you're contacting them directly. And I'm sure you know about Facebook, and they changed their algorithm or whatever. And I mean, now when you have a business page, it actually reaches fewer people unless you're willing to pay more money. And I mean, part of me gets it. I mean, it is a business and they're trying to monetize. But then another part of me is just so frustrated by that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just there's no risk of, having your ad account banned by Google or Facebook, which is, I'll tell you what, it is a killer. Like I've had Facebook accounts banned by accident. Like I've done nothing wrong. And then it still takes like 2 or 3 months to get it fixed. And you don't have those limits or those restrictions with email.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm sure that can be very, very scary if that's, say, your biggest source of income. I mean, that's just gone overnight, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the guys that inspires me most is a guy called Jay Abraham, which I'm sure you've heard of. They call him the $9 billion man just because he's this old school business strategist. And one of his most prominent concepts is called the Power Parthenon. And it talks about how essential it is to have multiple income streams so you're not reliant on one channel. And there's so many businesses that were, say, wind back 3 years ago, their sole income was SEO. And then, Google updates the algorithm and they could vanish overnight. And that's their business, dead, gone. So instead, he says, you need to be focusing on offline channels, online channels, direct channels, indirect channels. Really, really interesting. And he's got another really interesting concept while we're talking about good old Jay. And what does he call it? He calls it the geometric pattern for growth, which is really cool. And what it essentially is, so firstly, you've got to have your Power Parthenon set up. You've got to have your multiple income streams. And this is something that's going to be really relevant for creative professionals as well. And he says there's three ways to grow your business. And there's to get new sales, then there's to get more sales from your current clients or customers, and then there's to get your current customers and clients paying more every time they buy from you, which can work really, really well. Because I was looking at some of the stuff you've done on nickparks.com, and it's awesome. And the thing is, once you've done an awesome video, what's stopping you from doing, and it's successful for that company, what's stopping you from doing, a higher budget one next time?
Yeah, and speaking of which, I actually met up with a designer not too long ago, and he's a designer for the New York Times. We were talking about freelancing, and I asked him, what should your rate be when you're pitching to a potential client? You know what his answer was? More. Yeah,
but I guess it's better to be talked down from $100 an hour than from $50 an hour. You never know unless you ask. And it pitches yourself at how you perceive the quality of your work as well. Like if you're trying to sell your services for $20 an hour versus 50, that says something about you, really.
It also says a lot about the quality of your work and how much respect you'll get from your clients.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember we had I started a little online marketing agency with a friend a few years back, and we found out that the higher paying clients, not only do they make you more money, it's just you invest the same amount of time with the lower paying clients that you do with the high paying clients. So we'd be better off having less high paying clients than a ton more lower paying clients.
One of the reasons we started launching Creative was to ask questions like this. How do you raise your hourly rate? How would you answer that, Mark?
You just do it. I remember it sounds so simple. I remember having one of the first meetings and we're talking to some new clients. And actually, a better example. So I was working for this user experience agency, really, really cool company. And it was in the early days, and I was talking to the boss, and she was telling me about her pitching strategy. And she's pitching, we're talking to like massive companies, like some of the biggest companies in Australia. I'm like, how do you decide how much to charge? Because we're talking about time. It's, it's an intangible asset and intangible service. And she said, I just put my finger in the air and guess and see what feels right. And she'd say like, $500,000 and just judge their reaction. And that's it. So she literally would just say an amount and see what happens. And it would almost be, think of what you're thinking and then double it.
Wow, I like that. It's always better to be talked down from a high number than to remain stagnant.
Yeah, it really does. And just saying big numbers, and it transforms you looking from a freelance designer to just a top-notch designer.
I love that. I mean, confidence is key, and you just got to do it. Just like you said, just do it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think some people probably fear that if I pitch it too high, do I lose risk in the business? And I guess that's a possibility, but it's a negotiation. If you don't hear back from them, just follow up, hold your ground. And at the end of the day, do you want more high paying clients, or do you want to have to cut your services and scrounge for cash?
We had a quote on one of our earlier posts on launching Creative, and I love it. And it said, in business, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And so it's funny to hear you talk about negotiation, because that's key. That's what it all comes down to.
Oh, definitely. And another really interesting thing, which I've got more and more exposure to after working with a wide variety of clients, is that people have got a lot more money than you often know about. I remember we were pitching for a management fee, and they were negotiating us down and down and down, and in the end it was like $1,000 a month or something. And we're like, oh, that's pretty good. And then a few months later, we find out that they had a tool they weren't even using, and they were paying $2,500 a month for it like it was nothing. And we're like, you've got to be joking. You negotiated us down, and you're paying more than double, and for a tool you don't even use. So then next client we pitched to, it was a lot higher, and it worked.
So tying this back into sharing your secrets with people, surely you can't share everything with them. I mean, there are a few things you have to keep to yourself, right? So where's the balance in that?
Good question. So I think one of the things is it depends what you've done with the secret that you're revealing. So a lot of the time, I'll only want to share things that I've tested so I know if it works or if it doesn't work. And what that means, if it works and I'm sharing it, I'm already using a strategy that's making me money. So it doesn't matter so much. It's not like the market's going to be flooded and, it still takes time for people to establish a pattern and to test it. So I think sharing things that if you know that it works, it means you're already using it. So that reduces the risk. So I guess it kind of works hand in hand.
Yeah.
And then there are, and then you don't want to reveal everything at once either, because you've got to time it and you've got to space out your knowledge. You don't want to give everything to everyone at one time. So just pace it throughout the year as well. So then organically you're not giving away the farm all at once.
So Mark, we've been talking about sharing secrets with everyone, and I'd just like to share a brief story about myself. I actually started a company before launching Creative, and I was not generous at all with the information I had. I didn't share it with anyone. In fact, the few close friends I did share it with, I made them sign non-disclosure agreements beforehand. And, a year down the road, I had no new contacts, no new business, and it was just, it was a good learning experience.
Oh yeah, so a good point on that. Back to Jay Abraham, I guess you can probably tell I like this guy. Yeah. So he's got this theory called the power of preeminence. And, it's perfect. I can't believe I didn't think of this already. So it is literally becoming the expert in your niche by giving people free advice whenever you can. Even if it's about the service you offer, just give people advice, give them your secret, share everything, and then you're established as an authority and it will come back to you. The power of preeminence, and that's it. Share everything, become an expert, and get it coming back to you.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And it goes back to just generosity, to just being the expert who shares everything, because I've had people in my life who were very generous in that way, and they shared their expertise with me. And you know what? I still go back to them, and it has turned into business transactions. And I think that's just a wonderful way to conduct business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another important point is that in, say, the internet marketing space or even in design, it's changing so quickly. So by the time you've held on to something and you eventually share it or decide to share it, it's probably changed anyway. So you may as well be sharing as you go along.
I recently heard in Chris Ducker's podcast that content marketing, which is what we've been talking about, is not new. John Deere, back in 1895, I believe, released a print newsletter that educated farmers about their crops. They knew that if the farmers could be more educated, the farmers would be more successful, and in turn, they would buy more equipment from John Deere.
Isn't that amazing? That's such a good example.
Mark, this has been a blast, and you provided our listeners with so much amazing content. Coming up is the part of the show when we ask our guests a few special questions. So number one, in launching a business that helps startups, what has been your number one skill?
Keeping it lean, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Doing things as fast as possible, as cheap as possible. Instead of spending 6 months building a website that costs $10,000, assuming it's what people are going to want, or whip up something with WordPress, use WooCommerce so you can take payments, whatever it is, just do it and get it up as fast as possible. And then make changes based on what people actually think, not what you assume people will think.
That's brilliant. I like what Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, said. If you're not slightly embarrassed by your product when you've released it, you've waited too long. Yeah,
definitely. And the danger in that is that it's perfect based on just assumptions. People might not care about the feature you've spent 3 months getting developed. Just release it when you find out, when there's demand. If you've got 50 people coming up to you like, man, I'd love to read about this, then write it.
So next question is, what motivated you to help young businesses?
So it would definitely be, I guess, the process when I was making my own. And the fact that a lot of things took so much time and I knew that it could be easier. And it's so much fun sharing that knowledge. And then it'd even be just verbally in the beginning. You talk through ideas and then people come back to you and they're like, mate, that really worked. And it's just so rewarding. So I wanted to keep doing that. And I didn't want it to just be limited to conversations, at a bar. So instead I wanted it to be international. And that's why I guess I created my little startups.
Well, hey, it looks like the international thing is working out. I mean, you're in Sydney right now, I'm in New York right now, and here we are talking. So the next question, what does your morning look like?
What does my morning look like? Probably like a 15-minute rush. I think I've got it down to a T. So I love maximizing my sleep, and I always stay up late because that's when my ideas come. So I try to get a nice sleep in and wake up, I guess, at like, what is it, 6 o'clock or something, and then I'm out the door in 15 minutes. So it's pretty rushed. But then I use my time commuting to listen to audiobooks. And the reason I do that is because I spend literally every second of the day staring at a screen. And then my eyes started wigging out a little bit. So I was like, I still want to learn. I don't want to spend this hour that I'm commuting to my day job not learning. So that's why I jumped on Audible, and I haven't looked back.
Wow, that's crazy. I go through the exact same thing, and I haven't heard anyone else say that. I have an hour commute, and I stare at a screen all day. So reading on my smartphone or my tablet, just it kills my eyes. So I do the same thing. Listen to a lot of podcasts, and I close my eyes, and I probably look like I'm asleep, but I'm just resting my eyes.
Yeah, exactly. You're learning tip-top information.
Sure. And who has made a huge impact in your life?
So in regards to business, one of the most motivating people would be my granddad, who was an amazing guy. And he pretty much pioneered the health food industry in Australia. You know, he was the first guy to sell like natural peanut butter and filtered water. And there were newspaper articles, you know, like crazy man tries to sell water. And then, you know, you wind back a couple of decades and the company got bought out by GNC, the massive American company. But he had a stroke when I was quite young, so he couldn't speak, so I could never talk to him. But then he'd show me to his office, and he had floor-to-ceiling bookshelves of everything you can imagine, like books from like Dale Carnegie and all these records, which I was looking at them the other day. They're hilarious. Some of them, my favorite title is The Sale Begins When the Customer Says No. Classic stuff like that. Really, really, really cool. So I learned not only from the books, but I learned from him that you need to educate yourself constantly.
Wow, that's a beautiful picture. And that's actually a dream of mine, just having a beautiful, beautiful business library someday.
The books that I've read instead of the actual Kindle, like the pages are folded, they're highlighted, like they've been thrashed, and then I look at that and I know that, you know, that knowledge is in my head.
So the next question, this is actually one of my favorites. If you were to host a dinner and you could invite any 5 people, living or dead, and there's no language barrier, who would it be and why?
Cool question. So first would definitely be Mr. J. Abraham, just because I could pick his brain for hours about his strategy. And I watch a lot of his seminars, and you can just tell he's a brilliant storyteller. Then I'd have Roger Federer. Absolutely love tennis. You know, the Australian Open's on at the moment. I call him the humble champion, just because he's so brilliant at what he does, but he's just the nicest guy in the world. Then I'd have Bill Bryson, the author, and he just has this amazing ability to write in this way that makes you feel so intelligent while I literally fall off my chair laughing in fits of laughter. And I had to stop reading his books on the way to work because I was laughing like such a madman, so I thought I better read them.
You seemed like a crazy person.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was like, I'm having a good time anyway. So then I'd have Gary Vaynerchuk, who I've seen you're in a photo with him. That's awesome.
Yes, yeah, that was a big moment for me.
Yeah, that's so cool. So yeah, I definitely get him along because I think you definitely agree on this. Like, he preaches the gospel of social media, but he practices it to a T. You know, he's so impressive how he literally replies to every single tweet he gets. That's really, really cool. And then last, I think I'd have Robert Downey Jr. because I think he's just hilarious, and I think he'd bring the party. He seems like such a fun guy.
I love it. Yeah, I would love to be there at that dinner. That would be a fun night.
Yeah, sure would.
And what do you wish you knew more about today?
Interesting question. It would be, I think, speaking Mandarin and about working in China. So it's such an explosive market, and the people are just so much fun. They're such great people. And I started learning Mandarin about late last year, and it's so hard, but it's so rewarding. The first time I went to a Chinese restaurant and I could actually read the menu. You know, it's so rewarding. And there's a really good book by Derek Sivers, and it's about working in China. So anyone interested in about expanding to that market, it's just going to be huge and great for designers as well, because they want people with, you know, developed eyes, because China's still so behind in so much, but there are people with so much money ready to give it to people.
And what's one tip you'd like to share with people who are starting out right now?
Go for speed. Just get up and running with the absolute minimum you need and test and track absolutely everything.
I love it. And if you could go back, knowing what you know now, what would you do differently?
That's an interesting one. So one of my first businesses was in the water filtration market. It was a really cool concept. It was called Warani Water, and we wanted it to be like a social enterprise. So we had this system where for every water filter we sold, we'd direct a part of the proceeds to go to not-for-profit projects in developing nations. So we teamed up with a charity that was helping build schools in Cambodia. So the idea is that we could help provide filtered water. So you'd get good filtered water through buying the products, but you'd help someone more disadvantaged get the same. So we loved the idea. You know, it felt cool doing something that was going to make a difference. But we made the mistake of investing all our money in an SEO strategy that never came to fruition. So, you know, we spent 6 months building this awesome website, and just to get no traffic, you're not going to get any sales. So it was pretty devastating, but we realized the importance of having multiple income streams. So I definitely focus on paid channels because they're predictable and multiple types of traffic.
That's a great tip. Okay, and this is the last question, and it's probably my favorite one. Imagine you were given $1 million tomorrow. There were no taxes or fees, nothing. $1 million cash, and it's perfectly legal. What would you do with the money?
That's awesome. So I'd go hang out with some VC guys and find some awesome, exciting new startups to invest in, and I'd probably spend a decent chunk of it grabbing a nice little villa on Lake Garda in Italy, I think. I think my girlfriend would be very happy with that last decision. Yeah, that would be it. That'd be a nice little situation.
That sounds like a great picture. I love that. All right, so Mark, thank you so much just for being here, for sharing so much knowledge and giving so much value. What would be the best way to reach you? Are you on Twitter, Google+?
Yeah, just I'm pretty active on my Twitter, so Mighty L Startups, the Twitter account there, or just via the website. Just get in touch. I'd love to hear from anyone. Any follow-up questions, always happy to talk anything through.
Well, that sounds great, and I can vouch for you because that's how we got to know each other, was just from chatting on Twitter. And you put one of our videos on Mighty Little Startups, and so you are definitely very active in social media, and I love that. All right, well, thanks again for coming.
Not a problem. Talk soon.
Thank you so much for listening to the Launching Creative podcast. Come check us out at launchingcreative.com and become an anti-starving artist by joining our email list. Please leave us a review on iTunes by going to launchingcreative.com/iTunes. I'm your host, Nick Parks. Until next time.